you mentioned the possibility that the Ravens could work the board this year to try to get Lamar Jackson's replacement. That's the other thing that could expedite the situation after the draft. They emerge with a first-round quarterback who becomes the guy either this year or next year. And wouldn't that be awkward if they would draft a rookie and still squat on Lamar's rights and not offer him anything more than $32.4 million and take the position, you play for us this year or you play for no one, and they'll just trade him after the season, after tagging him again in 2024. That's a possible outcome. So DaCosta was asked about the possibility of taking a quarterback in round one. Since it didn't deal with Lamar Jackson, they answered that question. Here's what he had to say.
It depends on the board, Jameson. It really does. I mean, I'd have to say yes because we have quarterbacks in our top 31. So just based on that alone, simple math, I would have to say yes. I would say there's probably more than 4 guys that can be significant quarterbacks in this league, in this draft class. There's forget about where they might get picked.
Down for you.
More than 4, but what am I going to say? 7, 8, whatever it is. But the fact is that we think that you can get a quarterback in the first round, or the third round, or the fourth round, who have a chance to develop.
And that doesn't really tip their hand. And he said 31 because there's only 31 picks this year in round one, thanks to the Miami Dolphins losing their first-round pick due to tampering with Sean Payton and Tom Brady last year. So you've got quarterbacks in your top 31, which also implies that maybe they'll trade down or trade back in top 31. They may use the 22nd pick and trade back into number 31 and take a quarterback there. Who knows? But it doesn't wall off any potential avenues for the Ravens, and it doesn't tell us with any certainty what they're thinking about doing. I think it was a very obvious, reasonable answer. Talked his way around it, talked his way through it, and we'll find out. We'll find out if that's what they do with that pick that they hold in round one and whether or not they would swing back in like they did 5 years ago to get a quarterback. So it won't surprise me if they do. Not that they're a team that the light is flashing quarterback, like
right.
The Panthers, like the Texans, like the Colts if they're in position, the Falcons possibly. It's just one of those, I don't know what the Ravens are going to do.
Yeah, right.
And we'll find out 3 weeks from tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they right now only have, Anthony Brown under contract.
Correct.
Tyler Huntley is a restricted free agent, if I remember that correctly, right?
Yes.
So I expect him to be back there and on the roster with all due accounts, right? You talk about the draft and, middle rounds, whatever. Okay, great. I don't know. I mean, nobody cares about middle round quarterbacks right now. We don't think that's going to be the guy that comes in and takes, Lamar Jackson's job, or they go, hey, we got a guy in the 4th round. This is our new guy to take over the organization. I don't expect that to happen. I don't know if there's really that guy there. The down-the-line guys that I look at and go, wait, this guy I think can maybe be a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I think he definitely can be, but I don't know if everybody else is the guy I've talked about is Dorian Thompson-Robinson. After that, there's a little bit of a cliff as far as guys that you think can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Now, the interesting thing, and I know we kind of talked about this a little bit at the NFL Combine, this was before the Anthony Richardson hype had kind of blown up here and become what it is. But, I know I was one, and I think you'd remember me saying this, is I did always thought, maybe the Ravens, they'll be sitting there and maybe they'll decide to go the Anthony Richardson route and go, hey, let's just do this all over again. Rookie quarterback contract. We'll do the quarterback design run stuff and develop them in the pass game and do all that. I mean, I did wonder if that was going to be an issue, if the Lamar Jackson thing felt like the contract was never going to get done or get done the way he wants it. But now at that spot, at 22, they, by all due accounts, are going to have to make a move. They're kind of sitting in no man's land there. I would expect all the big-time quarterbacks we've talked about for the most part to be gone by 22, other than the Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and I don't think anybody views him as a first-round pick. They kind of look at him as, I think, as a second-rounder type of guy there, right? So that's where it's going to be interesting too, Mike, and to your point, that's where I think they're going to have to make a move of some sort if they want to get a starting caliber type of quarterback.
I kicked around this idea, and I've concluded it makes no sense because you have to get Lamar under contract. But if Chris Ballard and Eric DeCosta work out something that would entail a trade of Lamar Jackson for the 4th overall pick if Anthony Richardson is there after the first 3 selections are made, which is a potentially pretty big if. And if the Colts have a tentative deal in place with Lamar Jackson, so all the buttons can be pressed, all the triggers can be met to do this, the keys are in and both sides turn it. And I guess in theory, the Colts could take Anthony Richardson and then trade him to the Ravens for Lamar Jackson. We saw the Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers flip-flop after they were both selected by different teams. Would you do that if you were the Ravens? Would you essentially trade Lamar Jackson for Anthony Richardson operating on a 5-year rookie contract that's going to entail far less of a financial investment than you'd have to make in Lamar Jackson? And I guess you have to look at it both ways. If you're the Colts, would you do that and take Lamar Jackson and pay him and give up Anthony Richardson? And if you're the Ravens, would you say, we'll start all over again with Anthony Richardson and move on from Lamar Jackson?
So I think if I'm the Colts, all right, just to answer that first, Mike, and I guess, more times than not, sometimes I put myself in the head coach's position. I think I'd want my own start, my own blank canvas there. And again, I'm a little bit of a believer that I don't think the Colts are in the Super Bowl window right now. Like we talked about, I think the shelf life of that team is kind of gone, and they got to kind of refurbish it or replenish it to a degree. And if I'm Shane Steichen, I just go, you know what? I'd like to start with my own guys instead of like a new guy that I've already been wired and I got to rewire them, and we've paid them all this money, and now we got nothing to draft the next 2 years to kind of continue my plan. That's where I would go to the Colts. The Ravens, I'm the opposite of that. I'm going, you know what this guy is. He's damn good. He's better than whoever you're going to draft or bring in. You've gone through your lumps with this guy, and your team's ready right now. Your team is ready. Like I said a few minutes ago, I'm not sure the Ravens wouldn't have gone to the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson healthy. They had that kind of team last year. They did. And, we didn't get to see what they really were at the end of the year because of his injury. So I guess that would be my assessment there, Mike. Yeah, I wouldn't want to, because the Ravens, I do think, are ready right now. And I wouldn't want to start with the young quarterback thing and deal with that. I'd want to stay with Lamar and to just go, come on, let's go. We've built this around you, and we want to continue this and ride that wave.
And I think that's the key thing to remember. We're talking about proven commodity versus lottery ticket.
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
Which, if any.
Yeah.
Chances are all of them could be great. Chances are none of them could be great. Go back to 2018. Baker Mayfield, no good. Sam Darnold, no good. Josh Allen, winner. Josh Rosen, are you kidding me? Lamar Jackson, all the way at number 32. Now, look, Baker Mayfield, mixed bag, and he's still got a chance to turn it around.
Yeah, you're right.
But from the Browns' perspective, that's not how we thought the first overall pick was going to go.
Right.
For the Jets at number 3, who traded up with the Colts to get to number 3 to get Darnold, obviously it didn't work. So that's a big factor to consider as well. It is the reality that we have a guy who can play versus the possibility that we're drafting a guy who can't function as needed at this level. It's the Rams mindset. It's F them picks. We'll take the guy who's proven and pay him over the guy that isn't proven, who gets paid a lot less for 4 years, maybe 5. So calculated risk, but I just can't help but wonder whether or not the Ravens would welcome it at this point, knowing that they can't get a deal done with Lamar Jackson. And again, somebody's got to blink at some point. Somebody's got to come off of their position. And when you look at it just as a human dynamics perspective, Lamar Jackson is more likely to come off of his position with a different team than he is with the Ravens, because he's locked into the stare down with the Ravens. So if he backs away from whatever it is he's wanted from the Ravens, he appears to be caving. If he does that with another team that he has no history of negotiating with, if he takes the exact same deal from another team that he would refuse to take from the Ravens, it's not that same vibe.
Yeah.
He doesn't come off
Not
as
as
capitulating,
personal.
if that makes any sense at all.
No, I think it does. I think you're spot on with that. I do. You know, it's you know, there's the mindset of, wait, you drafted me, I'm your guy. You know, you're supposed to pay me whatever I want. I understand that's what he's thinking. I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, they are wanting to pay you whatever you want. You know, minus some details here that really are kind of arbitrary in a lot of ways as far as, you know, bottom line for him when all's said and done. But I think you're right with that assessment. You know, another team is just okay, yeah, hey, you're a new team. Let's go. Let's get this going on. Screw it. Screw that other team. I'm mad at them. They didn't give me what I want. I don't disagree with you there. I don't. This is like, you know, this is the problem of this situation, is that they've known each other for a while. You know, he probably expects more from them. They probably expect more from him. They probably both look at it a little like, hey, I've been so good to you, and we've tried to do everything for you. And that's where it gets personal. And then you don't know what's said in the negotiation process that Lamar has to hear too, that can make it more personal, that you allude to all the time. So that's where this whole thing is still crazy. I just still can't believe we're here. And Lamar, I'm hoping at some point he's going to blink, because he's leaving money on the table, period. He's left money on the table the last few years like we've talked about. He should already have a new deal and stop worrying about having the greatest contract in the history of National Football League. You're still going to have one of the best in the history of the National Football League, but he's looking for the best ever in the history of the league. And breaking down some rules that we've talked about with the guaranteed contract that, you know, the NFL, the owners don't want to do. And one guy did it because they were so desperate and screwed up in such a way that they had to do it. And, you know, that's where I just still can't believe we're here with this situation.
I remember when Josh Allen did his contract in 2021 after 3 NFL seasons.
Right.
Same time Lamar Jackson was eligible for his second contract. I remember saying when we caught wind of the original Josh Allen contract that I want to see all the details, and once I see the details, I will know whether or not between the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, one side or the other will be saying, let's take that deal and let's just scratch out Buffalo Bills, put in Ravens, scratch out Josh Allen, put in Lamar Jackson. And once I saw the full terms of the deal, I said, this is easy. Lamar Jackson takes that contract into the Ravens and says, I'll have what he's having.
Right.
And we're done. And it's easy. Thank you, Bills and Josh Allen, for doing the job for me that I can get this deal without having to give 3%, 2%, 1% to an agent. I'll just tell them I want this contract. And what happened between that moment and the full impasse that arrived was the Deshaun Watson dynamics that we've talked about at length. That turned everything upside down, and that created this impasse. And again, somebody has to blink at some point. The Ravens have to blink. Another team has to blink. Lamar Jackson has to blink. And it has been caught up to some extent in this broader back and forth, this labor management fight about guaranteed contracts. But still, at some point, and this applies to every player in the NFL who has a contract offer, at some point you got to say yes. And it's easy to say yes to your rookie deal because there's nothing to negotiate. The only things to really negotiate are guarantee voids and cash flow of your signing bonus. That's it. Everything else is set. Right. And especially if you're the 32nd pick in round one, there's nothing by then to negotiate. But your second contract, things get negotiated. Your second contract, at some point, it's incumbent on the player to know when to say yes. And the bottom line is Josh Allen has made $41 million more than Lamar Jackson over the last 2 years. That is never coming back.
Right.
When you wait,
he's going to get to the table again quicker. You know, that's like you've always talked about.
That's right.
Right? So it's going to be more money. It's more than what he's made the last few years. It's going to be, add that onto it too, that's being left at the table. And that's, it's unbelievable. It really is. And, yeah, you can't get it back. You know, like you talked about with Sean Payton sitting out this year and doing all that. He's going, damn, I mean, it might not be the right situation, but damn, I'm sitting out and losing $20 million just sitting out. Like I could be making $20 million. And Lamar, I mean, how could you not see that and say that to yourself a little bit and go, man, I've left some big money out there and I'm never going to get it back.
It's one of the reasons why when the NFL implemented the rookie wage scale in 2011 to avoid the the situations where you have a Jamarcus Russell, you have a high round bust in round one that gets a bunch of guaranteed money, Ryan Leaf, whoever, name your first round bust, and it happens, and it's not always the player's fault. It can be the team's fault too, but regardless, you got a bunch of money that exits the system, so let's have a rookie wage scale that controls all that. That's what created an impetus for college players to leave early, because it's not about coming to get the first contract. It's not about sticking around for one more year because maybe I'll be a first rounder. Hey, let's get to the NFL now because I want to start the clock on my second contract. I want to get my 3 years in to get to my second contract because that's now the big prize. It's not your first contract. It's setting yourself up for contract number 2. Now,
Right.
Of course, if you don't make it, you don't get second contract, but that created a factor that compelled guys to roll the dice, because it used to be, hey, if I stay one more year, I can make a lot more money because I go from being third rounder to guy who goes in top 5, and they pay a ton of money to the guys in the top 5. So I'll roll the dice on one more year in college. And of course, now things have changed because you stay in college for a year and make NIL money, which for some guys may be a lot more than what they would make in the NFL as a rookie. So that changes the dynamic, but that was a very real factor. Get to the NFL and get to where that second contract, because those years don't come back. Get that second contract. Get back to the table. Get to the table as often as you can, as many times as you can. We praise guys that do short-term deals. Hey, good job. You get back to the table sooner. Hey, you did a 3-year deal. Good for you, Jack. You get back to the table faster, and you get another bite at the apple. You get another contract. And again, $41 million plus that Josh Allen has made over the last 2 seasons, that I don't care what Lamar Jackson gets today. No one is going to pay him under this contract for anything that happened in 2021 or 2022, including the Ravens. They're not going to say, hey, you know what, Lamar, in hindsight, maybe we were being unreasonable last year. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay you a contract now that operates as if we had done the deal last year.
Yeah, right.
That gives you everything you would have made last year and gives you all the additional guarantees that would have vested this year. We're just going to act like you did this deal last year. Okay, we'll just do that. No team is going to do that for any player in any sport. It's about today, not yesterday. It's looking forward, not looking backward. And that is one of the other complications here, which makes me think, if he ever is going to say yes to a long-term deal this year, it's going to be to another team. Because I think that at the end of the day, he's going to want more from the Ravens than he's going to want from another team. I just think that is where it's not a relevant point yet, because there's no one who's pursuing him. But if we get to that point, I think it's a real human factors element that we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I think you're right. There's something to be said, and I've been here with you. You drafted me. Look what I've done for your franchise. To where, he expects more from them, from a group that he doesn't know. I don't disagree with you there. I think there's going to be that, or there's probably is that expectation, and probably part of this, like you've even discussed, like it almost has the bravado or a feel of like, hey, wait, I'm not even supposed to ask for this. You're just supposed to just like dump a truck of money at and I'm just supposed to go, yep, that's good. 240 guaranteed, boom, bam. I shouldn't even have to negotiate. I mean, that's almost what it seems like it is at a certain level here. And it's just,
I believe that for a long time.
I know.
That he doesn't want to negotiate.
Right.
That he believes that someone should just show up and say, you're the MVP in your second NFL season. You're one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Here it is. Here's everything you want. No negotiation necessary. And I understand the logic. That's just not how it works. It's a very logical, reasonable, rational position. But at some point, you got to understand that's not how the NFL does business. That's not how it works. You negotiate.
No.
Even if you think you shouldn't have to, you still negotiate.
You negotiate, and it's not good business for the Ravens. And this is a guy that plays a style of football that we've never really seen to this extent. It's more than Michael Vick or anything Randall Cunningham. They didn't have like quarterback design run plays for them, 10, 12 times a game. So, that's where, again, this gets, not only do you got to deal with him in the contract, but he's unlike any other quarterback, and it's fair to question how long he'll last with the style of play. It's fair, and especially after the last 2 seasons. And they're willing to guarantee him a ton of money for the first 3 years. And then, from all due accounts, it's just like, hey, just be still pretty good. And where he's going to get year 4 and 5, and that's going to be big money too. But the Ravens don't want to just go, oh, here's 5 or 6 years guaranteed for a guy that hasn't played in December the last 2 years. And man, 3-4 years from now, what is he? How many games is he going to play then? Come on, everybody. This is basic logic. This is where the people who are like, he deserves a guaranteed contract, I want to go, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. No, you don't. He does not. That would not, if you ran a team like that, it's just not the right decision here. I understand them. It's part of the reason there's not a great market out there, like we've talked about. No team, everybody's like, you do the Lamar thing first. We're not sure how this is going to turn out. We don't want to be the guinea pig. That's the part of the problem here. And that's where, I don't know if Lamar will ever see the logic or the Ravens side in that conversation.
It really has become a wedge issue between the NFL and the NFL Players Association. The collusion grievance that was filed fairly quietly last year by the union, alleging that the teams are colluding as it relates to fully guaranteed contracts for certain quarterbacks. The union trying to make Lamar Jackson into the guy who unlocks fully guaranteed contracts for franchise-level quarterbacks, setting the stage for Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and on and on and on. The problem is, at a certain point, you don't want to be that guy. Just like Tua doesn't want to be the concussion guy.
Yeah.
I don't think Lamar Jackson should want to be the fully guaranteed contract fight guy, because you have a lot of people slamming the door in your face because they don't want to give in on this specific quarterback, because it becomes symbolic to the broader fight.
Here's the other thing, too, that I think gets mixed in this conversation. The guarantee, you said it right, the guarantee, all that. If you're a quarterback like some of the guys you've mentioned, right? Mahomes, Allen, whatever. The contract is guaranteed as long as you just don't play like shit, okay? As long as you just play good or above average, Josh Allen's going to see every penny of his contract, guaranteed. He's already played good enough in the early years of that, but they're going to go, well, we're just going to ride this out. In fact, come on, like we're talking about, he could go back to the board right now and go, I'm way better than Aaron Rodgers. You need to pay me more than that, right? That's what he could do right now, right? So that's where, the guaranteed contract thing for a big-time franchise quarterback like a Lamar Jackson's a little overblown. 5 years, $250 million, 3 years of it is guaranteed. Okay, if you just play pretty good for 3 years, you're going to see year 4 and 5 if you're a guy like Lamar Jackson. So, but they just want to protect themselves in case, oh, wait, it's another December or half the year of an injury in year 3, and we're not sure we want to go to year 4 and give you the $50 million. And that would be the other part where I'd go, Lamar, you'll get it as long as, you don't fall off the world here as far as your play and health is concerned.
But, and this is where the NFL world has changed as it relates to quarterback contracts. Because I had discussion / debate / argument with someone about this over the weekend. It used to be Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, they're getting every penny of their contract because they're not going to suddenly get to the point where they can't play. Pocket passers, not relying upon their mobility, reduced chance of injury. Pocket passer is only going to get better as he gets deeper into his career, as long as he's got his arms, or arm as the case may be. And we saw what happened with Peyton Manning. He eventually had the neck problem, and the Colts cut him. So it's not hard and fast rule that you're going to make every penny of a non-guaranteed contract, but quarterbacks are more likely to do it than others. It's rare that you rip up a franchise quarterback's contract. And really, would the Colts have done it if they weren't in a position to get Andrew Luck, or would they have stuck with Peyton Manning? I don't know. They wanted to do the handoff from Manning to Luck. That was one of the factors.
And there was a bad injury.
Was this, Chris.
Right, yeah.
Right. With these mobile quarterbacks, and the best quarterbacks now are the quarterbacks who have the ability to run out of trouble, to turn chicken crap into chicken salad by coming up with a second play on the fly. Those are the ones you got to worry about. Those are the ones where you have to have a little protection for yourself if you're the team. Because they could suffer an injury that causes them to fall off the cliff. And that's why it's imperative for Lamar Jackson to try to get the guarantees and for the Ravens to protect themselves so that they don't get 3 years in and they say, we want to tear this up and move on. I mean, look at the Broncos and Russell Wilson. If they could get out of that contract right now, don't you think they would? But they can't without a major salary cap problem, and they have guarantees that go into next year. So that's where the guarantee protects the quarterback who relies on mobility and wants to protect himself against the possibility that the team will have second thoughts sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I know. And in the perfect world, yeah, that's right. But this is the NFL, and that ain't the world that we operate in. And at some point, you might just have to go, you know what? $133 million or more than that, really, realistically, is pretty damn good. Let me move on. And it is more than $133 million. You know, like we talked about, that was the total, that was the guaranteed. It's not the practical guarantee. You know, and I know that's allegedly, but it seems to be pretty much the number everybody reports and talks about. So it makes me think that it's allegedly. Right.
Presumably a lot higher than 133.
Exactly.
133 was the full guarantee at signing. The question is, how much in injury guarantees would it become fully guaranteed the third day, fifth day, whatever of the 2023 league?
Exactly.
They're not cutting him before that comes due. All right, we need to take a break.
Yeah.
But let's, again, a point we've made in the past, but it needs to be reiterated. The Ravens have proven that they can do fair deals with players who have agents, players who don't have agents. At some point, and we don't know what was offered, but at some point, Lamar Jackson has to say yes to somebody. And until he does, he's not going to be on the Ravens, and they better have a plan ready at quarterback for week one. They better hope their fans understand why Lamar Jackson isn't there when it's time to go try to win games in 2023. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.